Hey guys, does capitalism have you down?
Does the constant pressure to be productive get to you?
Are you tired of being a cog in the machine?
Then we invite you to be a part of the revolution against toxic productivity by embracing the useless things.
Welcome to episode 75 of the Very Unimportant People podcast.
Do less.
I'm your host, Courtney, and we've been away for a couple of weeks, so there's just a lot has happened. Lydia was here.
Yeah, I was. I came to visit. It was a lot of fun. I'm Lidia, your other host.
Yeah.
And yeah, we went to BC. I went to BC. Courtney lives there.
So I'm always here.
Always in BC. And it was cool, but together we went camping. And
it was cold.
Super cold. And I got this super dope cough and super awesome like sore throat that has literally lasted until like maybe 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Like,
You're feeling better now, though?
Yes. I am feeling better. I'm not coughing myself to sleep anymore, which is fantastic.
Oh, no.
No, it wasn't that bad, but like it was. Actually, I have to give you an update. So
yeah.
I went to work and like for my job, I think I sent you a snap about this, but for my job, I have to talk to a lot of people and like I generally just have to be talking and like I can't cough on people's food because they'll get nervous. They're like, it's COVID times, you can't just cough. In general too, I feel like it's gross. So I went to work and like I was coughing so much that I had to go home early. I stayed for like 3 hours and then I was like, I need to go. He was like, yeah, get out of here.
Oopsies. And for some reason, Lydia believes that this cough was developed while we were camping, isolated from all other humans.
Because of the cold.
And somehow not when we traveled from Toronto, stuck on a plane with a bunch of other people.
Modes of transportation.
Then on a ferry. We'll tell you all about that too.
God.
Then the next day we went to a concert with thousands of other people, but somehow the camping trip is the one that has been
cold. My body can fight off infection and disease unless it's cold. Then it's weak. My body is weak. You don't understand. But getting there was such a fucking journey. It was insane. I met Courtney at the airport because she was coming back from Ontario as well. And I took the train in the morning and then I took the streetcar and then I walked and then I got there and then I took a roller coaster to meet Courtney at Terminal 1 where we take off. And it was sick. And I was like, oh, let's go. Terminal 3, sorry. And we get there. We get into line and Courtney's like, oh, by the way, I'm really bad luck. Like when we're traveling, because you remember her last travel story.
Every time I travel, something happens.
Yeah.
There's delays, there's cancellations. Whatever.
I always have a good time traveling. It's always super easy and it's only delayed by like 30 minutes. Like what's the worst that could happen? My good luck is probably going to cancel out her bad luck. So we're 5 hours into the flight, okay?
Okay, first of all, our flight was delayed by like 2 hours, I think. It was delayed by like an hour and then like another hour. So
yeah, it was slow going. So that day.
But we got on the flight. It wasn't canceled, anything like that. So I was like, okay, you know what? A 2 hour delay, we can live with that. If that's what happens, that's okay. In my brain, I was like, we're on the plane now. Nothing else can happen.
Right.
We did it. We're on the plane. Okay, continue. Take it away.
Boy, were we wrong.
So wrong.
Thinking that we could just get to Victoria in one. I mean, we got there in one piece, which is what really matters, I guess. But it took like an extra 4 hours, and we're sitting on the airplane, and the pilot comes on, and he's just like, "Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that there has been a threat level 1 security issue at the airport in Victoria, and we are on our way to Vancouver, and it won't be cleared up until 7 o'clock. It was like 4 o'clock when we were on the plane, and he was like, so the flight has been diverted and we can't land there under any circumstances. And so we start freaking out because Courtney lives there. Janae was on his way to the airport.
He didn't say Victoria Airport. He said that there is a level 1 like security threat event happening in Victoria is what he said. So we didn't know it was at the airport. And then he finished off his little speech with, I don't know anything about this. All I know is bad things are happening in Victoria. And that's what he left us with. He was like, all right, enjoy the rest of your flight.
Like, okay, buddy. I don't even remember that. I'm so glad you remember that he said that because that's so ominous.
I know. And I start freaking out because, Junaid lives here.
Yeah,
Victoria is my
everything is
home.
there.
I love Victoria. I have so much love for this place.
Yeah.
And so I really thought that like something was happening to the city as a whole, not just to the airport.
Mm-hmm. So everyone starts freaking out on the plane. There's so much murmuring and chatter, and we were just like, what the fuck is going on? So we're flying.
The dude beside us passed out. Has no idea what's going on.
No idea. Like, we landed in Vancouver, and I saw him, like, looking up on his phone, like, Vancouver Airport. He was like,
where am I?
Passed out the entire time. The only time he woke up was when someone tapped me on the shoulder and handed me an AirPod, and then I turned to him, and I start reaching out to him to give him the AirPod, and he, like wakes up.
Like,
before I even touched him, before I even was like, excuse me, you dropped your AirPod. He just woke up, took it out of my hand, and put it back in his ear and went back to sleep. I was like, oh, you're welcome.
The only time. You didn't put a seatbelt on either the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
Life on the
edge.
edge.
I was just out of it, man. So eventually, the pilot comes on again. We're about to land in Vancouver, and he tells us that there was some sort of like bomb threat or something like that at the airport in Victoria. And we were all like, what the fuck? Victoria Airport is such a small place. Literally an island. It's Canada. Why do you have bombs? So we're like, this is so weird. And he's like, this is probably breaking news, you guys. I tweeted about it. No one cared. And we finally landed. And what was it that ended up happening? Like,
so
it was in the...
They, like, the airline, it took us a while to get to a gate, first of all, because, like, they didn't know we were coming. And then the flight attendant was like, oh, I guess my thought was that we were being diverted to Vancouver and maybe they were going to fly us. We were just going to wait on the plane and then they were going to fly out later or something like that. Or, like, deplane us and then get us back on the plane when they were ready. But the flight attendant was basically like, you guys can go get your bags.
Yeah,
and then just wait at baggage. Somebody will talk to you. And we were like, okay, so I guess we're here and we're staying here. So then we went to go get our baggage and waited for a bit and no one really showed up.
Yeah. And we were like,
knowing my
what are we going to
experience
do right now? Like,
with planes, I was like, I don't think even if they present a solution, it's probably not going to be the best or most timely solution. So I was like, I think we should go take a ferry. Yeah. So that's what we did.
We stood in line for the cab for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I downloaded Lyft, nothing. All the Ubers were taken because every single person who was stuffed into this plane was taking Ubers and cabs to the ferry. As we were waiting in line, Courtney goes inside to check in on the people who were on the same flight. And they were like, the flight attendant just came up to us and told us that we were on our own.
Yeah, the flight attendant was basically, so they were given two options. She said, I can get you on a flight back to Toronto. Which, for people who don't know Canadian geography, Vancouver is a 15-minute flight from Victoria, and Toronto is a 5-hour flight. So they're like, we can send you back 5 hours if you want, or you can find your own way to Victoria. So we made the
Everyone
right call.
Was like, we're just going to get on the fucking ferry.
We're going to go to the ferry, yeah.
Holy shit, it was such a mission. We finally got to Victoria at like 8 o'clock, and the airport just opened at like 8 o'clock. And then I don't remember how we found out, but the Flair flight like wasn't taking off until like the next day or something like that. I think they had concluded that they were just not going to be like helping anyone in that day. No like emergency flight or anything like that. And then on the way back, my flight got straight up canceled and then delayed by 4 days. And I was like, what the fuck? So I had to fly with a different airline at 11 o'clock at night. I got to Toronto at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was like walking through the streets as if I was an early morning person. And then like some crazy lady comes up to me and she's just like, the mark of Cain shall doom us all. I was like, girl, I literally am going somewhere.
Shut up. I already have it.
I was like, okay. And then I stood in front of this like random building waiting with my suitcase, and like I waited for my Uber for like maybe 10 minutes, and then I look up at the building to see, and it's like a gentleman's club, so there's like the strippers work there and stuff like that. I was standing in front of it with my goddamn suitcase looking like I was waiting for like my sugar daddy or something like that. I was like, what's going on right now? It was hectic, man. It was so hectic. Slept for 2 hours, worked the whole day, and then finally, sweet rest on Wednesday night. It was so insane. It was insane. Flair is not a reliable airline.
No. But okay, I still stand by this opinion. I know that you had like a awful experience with it being canceled. I totally get it. But I had an awful experience with another airline getting canceled. But for the other airline, I paid like $1,000 to get home. With Flair, I paid like $300. So I'm like, I'd rather be out $300 than it can happen either way. That's the bottom line. It can happen with anyone. Good point. Flair is probably a little bit more unreliable because it's so cheap.
Yeah, and it only flies on Tuesdays and Sundays.
But I'd still rather risk losing $300 than $1,000.
Yeah. You know what?
And a little sleep.
Good
like,
conclusion.
You know?
A little bit. It's fine. I'm good now. Look at us. Look at us now. We're fine.
Look at us.
We survived.
Lydia got to take the ferry twice.
Yeah, I did.
Experience the ferry life.
It was fun.
It all worked out.
So that's us. That was our update.
That's us. But we had a good time when Lydia was here. We went to the Avril Lavigne concert. We went camping. We went to a comedy show.
Oh, yeah, baby. It was so beautiful.
Lydia got sick, but it's fine.
It's okay.
It was fine.
We made it through the end, and that's all that matters. We got to see each other. We got to hang out. And I got to travel, and I found out that I'm one of Courtney's more dedicated people in her life because I've come to visit her 3 times. Her family has been there once, and
Lydia has come to visit me the most.
Yeah.
Lydia's the only friend that's been to visit me. Not calling out any of my friends. If anyone listens to this, it's whatever. I know it costs a lot of money to be here. My family has come once, and Janae's brother has come once. Oh, Ahmed came once.
Yes.
One of our friends came once. But
okay.
Lydia is a very dedicated and very good friend. So.
Thank you.
Free advertising for Lydia. Lydia's friendship.
Well, let's go, guys. And now we're on episode 75.
Yeah, now we're here. And this week I am talking about GMOs.
GMOs?
Ooh,
oh,
yeah.
GMOs. Genetically modified. What does the O stand for?
Organism.
Oh!
You almost got it.
It's like food?
Yes. Yes. So it stands for genetically modified organisms. And GMOs tend to be like really controversial. A lot of people have really strong feelings about them.
Facts.
Some of them founded, some of them not. And basically, I guess the opinion about GMOs is that they aren't bad for us, but it doesn't mean that they're not bad, is the opinion. So,
okay. They're edible.
Yes.
We can eat them and we can remain healthy.
Yes. But there are definitely bad things that happen surrounding GMOs.
There are reasons to be angry.
We will get into. Yes.
Valid.
So when we're talking about GMOs, people are generally referring to organisms whose DNA has been modified using genetic technology, is generally the assumption. And GMO crops are used kind of for a variety of different reasons, including growth, nutritional content, sustainability, pest resistance, and ease of farming. But here is the big kicker that I think most people don't take into consideration, is that all of our fruits and vegetables are GMOs.
Every single one?
Yes. Every single fruit and vegetable that we eat has been genetically modified, but they were genetically modified over like thousands of years. But I just feel like people don't think about this part, is that like, so take corn, for example. 12,000 years ago, corn looked like wheat. Okay?
It was that small?
Yeah, corn grew on a little piece of like grass, and then just had like one singular like pod that came out of the grass, and it contained dry seeds, not really edible.
Oh my god.
And then the Mesoamerican people for 12,000 years used selective breeding in order to breed what we now know as corn, which is a form of genetic modification. It's not using like technology to splice DNA. But GMO process that everyone's mad at today is just basically a really quick version of what's happened to all of our plants.
Oh, so they're just speeding it along. They're just like, this will happen eventually. We might as well just make it happen now. We have the technology.
Humans
time travel for plants.
There you go. Sure.
We can time travel through GMOs, dude.
Yeah, it's something that's like constantly happening. This is also how we got most of our dog breeds, through selective breeding. of
Facts.
dogs. Like we practice this all the time. And there's
Mhm.
actually some reasons why you might want to genetically modify a plant, and sometimes it's actually super beneficial. I learned this in my agriculture class in second year.
Shout out to first year agriculture.
Second year agriculture.
Shout out to second year agriculture.
So plants basically have like basically 100,000 different chemicals and carcinogens that basically work to discourage animals from eating the plant. So it can make them taste bitter, it can sting your mouth, it can just like have an unpleasant texture. But GMOs can work to disable these, or the long genetic modification works to disable these and make plants more edible and more tasty to us. So genetically modifying is not always bad.
Oh, okay. So it makes it more tasty for us, but it makes it less tasty for other animals?
It would make it more tasty for other animals too. Like basically they're like defense mechanisms of the plant. To be like, don't eat me. Cool. And we're like, but we actually want to eat you. So we're going to make you yummier. We're going to take down your defenses.
Maybe that's the opposite of what is supposed to happen. Because if they're edible, then wouldn't they get like taken out? Wouldn't that be, what's the word?
I don't know.
Survival of the fittest? Where...
Yeah. So like, this is not true. So... There's some parts of the plants that are supposed to be eaten for like seed dispersal, right?
Oh,
so,
whoa!
Like fruits and stuff, animals are supposed to eat, and then they poop out the seed, and that's like how the plants reproduce.
That's so cool. So the tastiest ones would normally get reproduced anyways, since the tastiest ones are gonna get eaten by the animals who are gonna poop the seeds.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like when we're eating the body of the plant, so like leaves and roots and stuff like that, those have these defense mechanisms because they're not. Eating them isn't part of the plant's success in life, so they try to discourage it. But yeah, we can disable those, which is kind of cool. This is also, I think, why some fruits and vegetables taste worse when you grow them yourselves. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I have this specific memory of someone bringing me a cucumber that they grew in their garden. And I bit into it, and the skin was like so thick, and it had this like astringent component to it that like sucked all of the dryness out of my mouth.
What?
And it was disgusting.
That's so weird.
This is gross. And I think that what I was experiencing was like a defense mechanism of the plant to make it unpleasant to eat. But of course, this person had used like a less genetically modified seed to grow their plant. So it kind of tastes worse. So it's not always a bad thing. Yeah. So we're going to go through some pros and cons of GMOs. And when I'm talking about GMOs in this specific instance, I'm talking about the like technology quick ones, not like genetic modification over thousands of years.
Okay. The quick ones.
So pros. So many GMOs are pest and insect resistant, which means that you have to use less pesticides when growing them. So GMOs have reduced pesticide use by 37% and have increased crop yield by 22%.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Great things.
I thought pesticides were still something that we were all fighting against. I didn't realize that things were getting better because of GMOs. That's so cool.
Take it with a grain of salt. We'll probably learn something in a few minutes that's going to directly contradict this. But
great.
GMO crops can also be designed to survive in stressful environments, so such as drought and diseases, which can also lead to higher yields, and it also presents an opportunity in the face of climate change to maybe not starve and die as quickly. Obviously, we should fix climate change. That'd be probably the easiest solution and the best solution.
Oh, we gotta eat.
Yes, exactly. We gotta eat in the meantime. So there's there's hope there, I guess. And it can also increase the nutritional value in foods. So a specific example of this is there's a rice that has been genetically modified to be high in beta carotene, which is basically vitamin A, because there's a specific like group of people who are chronically deficient in vitamin A and they experience blindness as a result. So this crop has been introduced to their diets and they're not deficient anymore because the rice has lots of vitamin A in it.
That's so cool.
Right?
Oh my God. Rice. Good job. Yeah, that's so great.
And then some cons for humans. There's not really any direct cons, but there's some common like misconceptions about GMOs. So the first one is that a lot of people believe that GMOs might trigger allergic reactions. And this is due to like the foreign genes that are in there because they, take out genes and they put in new ones. So this is a concern. Okay. It's a legitimate concern, like it is scientifically possible, but there's been no reports of it happening. But it could happen. In theory, it could happen. If we keep genetically modifying, it could happen later on.
They're like, in theory, I hate GMOs.
They're like, in theory, this could happen to me. So, and then the other big one, which I feel like people hear about a lot, is cancer. There seems to be this like fear because cancer is like mutation of DNA,
the cells,
that eating DNA that has been mutated or has been changed will in turn cause your DNA to mutate. Is the fear, which I understand.
Yeah, I get that too. I think
that
that's
line
a legit
of thinking.
Fear.
Yeah. There's no real studies that prove this. There was an early study where a study in mice where like consuming GMO fruits and vegetables was linked to higher rates of tumors, but this study was later retracted because it was poorly designed. So the results aren't reliable. Okay. And there's been no other evidence. They've studied it. There's been no other evidence of GMOs causing cancer.
Cool. Good to fucking know. Does that work for every type of DNA that's mutated?
What do you mean?
Like, when you said mutated DNA, my mind almost instantly went to the vaccine. So is there some sort of legitimacy then in like the vaccine changing your DNA and then you getting cancer later? Because I know that a lot of people like won't vaccinate their kids because of that reason. Because they're like, well, the mutated DNA is like bad, blah, blah, blah. But is it the same as eating it?
I think it's a common misconception that putting something that has had its DNA like mutated or whatever you want to call it, modified, will cause cancer, but it's never been like proven that causes cancer. That's never been anything. I have this is going to be a little off topic. I have like a little bit of a fringe theory. It's a two-parter. One, the first part is that everything causes cancer.
Yes.
Just literally everything causes cancer. The second is I truly believe that humans aren't meant to live as long as we do. Here's a good analogy. We are kind of like genetically modified things because I think that evolution is supposed to happen really slowly, and I think that modern medicine happened really quickly in terms of like human history and prolonged our lives. Within the span of like 100 years, our lives were like prolonged by 100 years. We used to die at like 100 years ago. And I don't think like our genes and our DNA have had time to catch up to this prolonged life. So I don't personally, this has not been proven by anything, but this is my fringe theory, is that cancer isn't more prevalent. We just are living long enough to see it happen to us.
Interesting.
That's my theory. Diseases, yes, lots of diseases are happening and people are like, oh, they're getting worse, but are we just living longer? And like naturally catching more disease as we're getting older? You know, like whereas the first disease used to kill you. The first infection used to kill you. So we never got the chance to like see what happens when someone lives to 100. And now they just get really sick and we're like, oh, this is getting worse. But maybe it's not getting worse. Maybe we're just not supposed to be alive still.
Maybe it's getting better, but because it's getting better, it's getting worse.
Exactly. So that's kind of my fringe theory. I don't know. I can't remember how we got onto that theory. Oh, things causing cancer. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think everything causes cancer.
I think radiation causes cancer.
Radiation because like everything.
Because I'm thinking about the young people who die of cancer. Like they like, you know, they were very young, and like in 100 years ago we would have seen that kind of thing as well. So maybe that's some true. People are like predisposed to it, which I think is actually scientific fact.
Yes, I think that is scientific fact, but I also think that those young kids that, this is really sad, that do die from cancer young, yes, they would have also done that, but maybe like they just didn't know the cause of death. Like lots of kids used to die all the time. That's why people used to have so many kids, is because you could like bank on a couple dying, unfortunately. So that was probably just, you know, like a a part of life. Like, I think people still died from cancer, but I don't think it was just like, it wasn't one of the main killers, like, so it wasn't really on people's radar. Everything could kill you.
Classic. It was one of those like ones where they were like, the woman is so weak, she can't get out of her bed, and she just lives out her days in her bed. Like that movie about the garden. Yeah, and then one day it was just too much for her. She was just weak.
Or maybe it was like black magic bones or something, you know? So, yeah. That's my thought about things causing cancer.
Yeah, you can't escape it, is what you're saying?
You literally can't. I think if you try to design your life around avoiding everything that causes cancer, you wouldn't be able to live. Like everything, like the sun, your phone, Wi-Fi, everything, the food you eat, stress.
You might as well just live. You might as well just live life to the fullest capacity because you might get cancer anyways.
Yeah, it happens. There's not always something you can do to avoid it.
Okay. Kind of positive.
Anyways. So yeah, the negative health effects of GMOs are kind of unfounded in general. But that doesn't mean they're not bad for humans and human health. So we're going to get into some specific examples of some GMOs. So the first one we're going to talk about is called the Bt crops. So it's basically a group of crops. I think there's like corn, cotton, soy, beets. I can't remember exactly what they are, but they're a group of plants that have been genetically modified to control caterpillar infestations from damaging crops.
Caterpillars are the fucking worst. Yeah.
So basically they added this Bt gene, and so this gene is in the DNA of the plant. So when the caterpillar eats the plant, the Bt gene binds to its stomach, and then the caterpillar's like, oh man, I'm full, stops eating. And then it basically like releases a bacteria into the caterpillar, and the caterpillar dies. So the plant like kind of eats the caterpillar from the inside out.
Wow, what a defense mechanism. That's insane. That's
So it's morbid. Like kind of cool, but like really weird. Yeah. And humans are resistant to this gene bacteria.
Oh my god.
So are like all other mammals, fish, and birds. And then apparently they harm other insects much less than broad spectrum insecticides. So I don't really know what that means for insects outside of caterpillars. Like, I don't know what happens to them if they eat it. I don't know if it's a specific caterpillar thing, but it might also be killing other bugs. I don't know. And some bugs are beneficial. Like we need bugs.
Yeah, we do need bugs. Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, in 2009 in India, they actually discovered that insects had become resistant to Bt cotton.
Classic. Classic bugs and genetic mutation.
Most of GMOs that are on the market today were created by Monsanto, which we'll talk about. I'm sure everybody knows the name Monsanto. And so in like reaction to this, Monsanto was basically like, oh, this is expected. This is a natural part of evolution. It's important to stop this, to slow it down. Thankfully for you, we created this new generation Bt. It was called Boulevard 2 that they won't be resistant to. So you just need to change all of your crops to this new plant and purchase all of these new seeds. Capitalism.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And they actually blame Monsanto and Bt crops for this. Like in 2009, there was a big, I want to call it like economic crash amongst a bunch of farmers in India, where they just assumed a massive amount of debt, and they basically blame Bt crops for it because they're so expensive. And there's like a lot of other issues with it, which we'll get into later.
Cool.
But it's kind of the GMO's fault for bankrupting
my god,
a bunch of farmers.
That's in India. So interesting. Yeah, they create something that you can't live without. And then once the bugs get resistant to it, which they knew would happen,
I need more.
They're like, don't worry, guys. We have the next one available for you. They probably had this developed for years, and they were just waiting for the farmers to be like, what are we gonna do? Wow. Sneaky.
Sneaky. All right. The next one, Roundup Ready, is the next GMO we're going to talk about. and the last GMO I think we're going to talk about, actually. So this one is a specific type of GMO plants that are bred to be resistant to a specific type of herbicide, which is called glyphosate. So it's a strain of soy, corn, and beets, and you can plant them, and you can spray this Roundup, this glyphosate, over the entire field, and everything will die but the crop. So this actually allowed farmers to plant their seeds closer together, because they used to have to leave like a little row so that they could spray herbicide and it not get on the plants.
Oh.
But now they could just plop them all in, spray the herbicide everywhere. Great. It increased their yields, which was awesome.
That's
for
nuts.
them. Yeah, I know. Kind of crazy. Over 80% of the corn, sugar, beet, and canola planted in the U.S. is Roundup ready. Is one of these plants, which is
really whack. That's really nuts that like you can fuck with genes that much, you know?
I know. But you're like, this doesn't kill you anymore.
Just a theory, you know? I thought this was all like in theory, but they actually have microscopes small enough to be able to splice DNA.
I know.
Wow. Science is real.
It's a crazy world we're living
That's
in.
insane. Holy shit.
Yeah, and this GMO isn't necessarily found to be harmful for human health, like the specific plant or vegetable or whatever that it produces. But it's found to be degrading the soils and can affect the ecosystems. So the nutrients in these plants are not bioavailable to certain animals and insects, such as bees. So when bees like use the pollen from these plants to try to like provide themselves with sustenance and nutrients, it doesn't work for them, and it has actually contributed to the bees dying off.
Oh,
because people don't think.
No, they don't
about life outside of profits and humans.
Facts. Wow, that's so selfish of us. Oh my god.
And then another kicker, which is probably not a surprise, is that there's a number of weeds that have now somehow developed this resistance to the herbicide, which has led to even more Roundup being sprayed on everything, because they're like trying to kill these weeds that are now like, oh, we're also resistant. Like we are a GMO now.
Yeah. That's so cool. That without any human interaction or changing, the plants are still able to just be like, they fuck with you.
You fuck with nature. Nature fucks with you back. They're like,
that's so surprising.
You trying to get rid of us, bitch?
Oh, maybe we are right on track. Like, this is exactly where we were supposed to be, you know? Nature caught up really quickly to, like, what is going on in the world.
They're like, nuts. It took you hundreds of years as humans to figure out how to genetically modify a plant. They're like, it took me 3 seasons, you know? It's like, now.
Holy shit.
All of your work destroyed.
That's
which I kind of like.
Cool.
I kind of like.
It's kind of cool.
Mother Nature for fucking
my god,
back
seriously.
Like
out of fear now. Like, what else can it do? It's fucking horrifying. Nature truly does go on, you know? They always say nature really will continue. It really does.
She really does. And so Roundup Ready, also created by Monsanto. So let's talk about Monsanto for a minute. I'm sure everyone's heard of them. They are a big GMO company. They're based out of Missouri, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh. They're based out of Missouri.
They were among the first to develop and test GMOs in 1987. But before going into GMOs, they were actually formerly a chemical company. And they were one of the top 10 chemical companies in the States until it divested into 2 separate companies, and one of those companies focused on GMOs. But their former chemical company was actually the original producers of a chemical called Agent Orange, which was a toxic herbicide which led to serious health effects after its use in the Vietnam War. And they also created DDT, which was that pesticide that was like sprayed over like entire forests and then killed like all the birds. You know that book, Silent Spring, that everyone talks about?
No.
Somebody wrote it in response to this pesticide because like one spring there were no birds, and it was because this pesticide was like sprayed over forests.
Holy shit.
And like killed the bird population.
Oh.
So they did that. It was them.
Not good for marketing. Not great.
So Monsanto has never done good things. Monsanto also produces glyphosate, which is that Roundup chemical that you have to use their plants. And that chemical was also recently found to be a human carcinogen. So that causes cancer. But everything causes cancer. So like, whatever.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't too much of a surprise for everyone. It just sucks that it was confirmed. It's like, if you eat this, you are more likely, pretending we have some control over.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an illusion of control, which we don't.
Yeah. I'm starting to understand your perspective.
Thank you. So Monsanto has gotten themselves into a lot of hot water over the years through their use of GMOs. So one of the things that they've gotten in trouble for is that this story was a little bit unclear to me. So there might be some weird things in here. So basically they bought this company that designed a seed called the Terminator seed. And the Terminator seed was a seed that was designed to only be cultivated once. So basically you could buy the seed, you could plant it, the plant would grow, it would produce its whatever, it would die, but then it wouldn't come back, and you couldn't use any of the seeds produced by the plant to replant it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically you had to buy a new seed every year. It was a sterile crop.
Okay. Yeah.
Now it's unclear to me whether they actually ever integrated this seed into their business, like whether they actually used it or not, or if they got in trouble before they begun using it. That's the part that's unclear to me. So they had intentions of using it, definitely. That's as far as I don't
understand how they make sterile seeds in the first place. Like, where did you get the seed? It was,
That's a good point. Where did it come from?
I guess that's fine. But yeah, where did it come from? Anyway.
So this means that they basically designed their business with the intent of forcing farmers to purchase new seeds every single year. It's a continual purchase. On top of that, Monsanto GMO seeds are a lot more expensive than other seeds.
Of course.
And then there's this weird thing that when you buy a Monsanto seed, you have to sign an agreement. It's like terms, like, when you like sign up for like Spotify and you have to use terms of like use or whatever, you have to sign one of those if you buy Monsanto seeds. And
what are you agreeing to?
You're basically agreeing to, you can't cross-pollinate. They have a copyright, they have a patent on their plant. So you can't cross-pollinate their plant with any of your plants. So this is something that happened in India, which contributed to a bunch of farmers going bankrupt. Basically, was the farmers had used the seed because it doesn't reproduce, and because their freaking caterpillars had become resistant to it. So they used the seed and they bred it with one of their like local cotton plants. Yeah. As a cost-saving thing, so that they could replant it and keep going every year and have like seed banks. Seed banks are really big things, especially in like small farming communities. So yeah, they basically did that, and then Monsanto sued them for violating the terms and services.
They're already
cross-pollinated their own fucking plants.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I wonder if they had to kill all the plants that they had cross-pollinated. I wonder what happened to that yield.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so you basically have to sign their terms and agreement not to cross-pollinate. I don't remember what the other agreements are, but it's difficult when it comes to plants in nature because you can't really control plants in nature. So it's hard to assign like an agreement of how you're going to use nature with somebody because it kind of makes its own rules. And there was this really famous case where Monsanto actually sued an independent farmer because the independent farmer had Roundup Ready in his field. Now the farmer claims that the seeds had blown over from the neighbor. And that the farmer didn't know because the canola plants looked exactly the same. Yeah. The Roundup Ready and the ones that the farmer had planted looked exactly the same. And the dude was like, what am I supposed to do if the wind frickin' blows seeds over? But he didn't pay the licensing fee for Monsanto's crops, so Monsanto sued him. And I think they actually
How did they end up finding out that he had
that's what
Roundup
was unclear
ready?
to me.
Okay.
That is the part that was unclear. I don't know if
That's
maybe
so
like
weird. Do they keep track of his crops and check if any of them grow back? And if they grow back, then they're like, all right,
he had,
you're in the clear.
Sprayed herbicide or something like that, or like I don't know. There's a documentary about it apparently, but I did not have time to watch it this morning.
Yeah.
So you're more than welcome to watch it. But yeah, they won the case against the farmer.
Oh my
so they ended up
god.
suing the farmer. The big fucking multi-million-dollar company sued a little one-man family farm.
They had to make a lesson out of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
and
fucking
that's when
sucks.
they like
They had
really
to make an
became
example.
These like big monsters that people started
I can
going
understand.
after, which like fair enough.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Honestly, pretty heartless.
Yeah, and recently they also created this plant that's resistant to dicamba, which is a really strong herbicide. My theory is that this is the crop that they're like lining up to replace the Roundup Ready one. When people are like, all of my weeds are now resistant to Roundup Ready, they'll be like, don't worry, we made this one for you.
Yeah.
This is the next one.
It's even more expensive.
Exactly. And you have to buy it now because all of your plants, all of your weeds are resistant to any herbicide. Anyways.
Wow.
Dicamba, which is the herbicide, is really easily picked up with the wind. And it's blown over into other fields. So like if your neighbor uses this plant and sprays this herbicide, it will likely get blown into your field and kill a bunch of your plants. So many farmers have had their crops destroyed as a result of other people using this plant. And a lot of farmers actually sued Monsanto for this. I don't know if the results of the lawsuit have come out yet.
Wow.
But yeah, they sued Monsanto because they believe that this is basically like a tactic to force farmers into buying Monsanto seeds. Because the only way that you can stop that from happening is to buy the seed that's resistant to the herbicide.
Yeah. That's insane.
Fucking
Good for them for
capitalism.
seeing right through that situation, because like they could easily make a pesticide that doesn't blow over with the wind. You know, they've done it once before. They could do it again. Like they could easily fix that problem. But yeah, I kind of saw right through that one too. I was like, hold on a second. We need to think about this from the evil Big Brother
sneaky
lens. Yeah, because they are being sneaky. Holy shit. Damn, that's smart, but not smart enough. You know, the farmers are growing to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You tried, and you may have succeeded. We don't know yet. Jury's still out on whether you succeeded, Burn.
Yeah, so... yeah, GMOs, not inherently bad, but bad.
So much drama in the farmers' community.
So much drama around GMOs. Yeah. Fuck Monsanto for using plants for profits. Destroying like the little guy. To, you know, like destroying like small farmers and bankrupting farmers and suing farmers. Like family farms.
Like you're putting their food on your table at the end of the night.
For trying to feed people? Like that is insane.
That's so fucked.
And especially when you're a multi-million-dollar company. Like that's just, where are the ethics? Where are the morals? They don't exist.
That's really
in
scary.
This case. Yeah.
That sounds like a novel that someone would have written in the 1960s, like predicting what's going to happen in the future and how if you control the food, you control everything, you know? It just sounds like a horror movie waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
I did
and
not
it's like
know any of this.
That's
nuts.
In finding a solution, we've almost like created more problems, you know? Like we've killed the bees, we've degraded the soil.
Soon we're going to have to start doing our own pollination. Like we're going to need robots to do it because there's not going to be enough bees, and then the robots are going to be causing other problems.
And you know what? Like maybe it's okay for sometimes some animals to like eat some of your crops. They need to eat too. Yeah. It's not just humans that need to eat. Maybe we should just like plan that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If we need
my mom's garden. She has like a really impressive garden going on right now, like rows of garlic and lettuce and kale and carrots and like a bunch of other shit that she's growing. And she's had issues with rabbits at first, but what she did is she let the wild plants grow around the garden to distract the rabbits, and she started planting like food outside of the actual garden as like distractions so that they don't get to the real crop. They just stay on the outside where they think the bounty is, you know, because there's like a little bit of lettuce there.
This is an amazing idea. That's still, the rabbits are still getting their yum-yums, you know? They're still getting dinner. You're not harming them. You're still getting your food. Like, it's a win-win. It's a win-win-win.
Exactly.
Everybody wins. So I think
and your garden is so protected. Like, you're good.
We should hire Lydia's mom as
she's a genius.
Agricultural
honestly.
Whatever.
Yeah, dude. She went to school for horticulture, so you just need some more horticulturalists working in these industries. Maybe some more of my moms working in these industries, and then all the problems would be solved. Genius.
Yeah.
I think that the problem is that there's just not a lot of space on the farms typically, you know. They like use every single row as much as possible.
That's true. I think, you know, that problem is probably embedded in a lot of other problems. One of those problems being meat consumption, and that if we just stopped eating so much meat, we wouldn't need so many crops. But I think there's a lot of people that aren't ready to have that conversation yet.
No, they're not. That's an opinion for another day.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But also an opinion that we've already talked about.
Yep. Couple episodes ago, guys. Bugs.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Basically, GMOs aren't bad for us, but they're bad.
I had no idea that there was any of this drama happening. I was just like, oh yeah, pesticides bad, but I didn't realize that it was like because of this one specific company who has a monopoly basically on pesticides.
Pesticides,
and
GMOs.
On seeds. That's so insane. And they have so much money that they could just like buy out any other company who tries to start a more wholesome seed bank. Or fertilizer bank or anything like that.
I think they rebranded and renamed themselves a couple of years ago. I don't know what they're called now. Just because of like all of this crap that happened.
We need a new name. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, very scary though.
Some knowledge for you.
GMOs, man. Courtney, you actually sent me a Snapchat a couple weeks ago about how you're eating grapes that were like cotton candy flavored. And you were like, GMO is good.
Fucking love those things. That's a different type of GMO. That's not a GMO that's genetically modified to, like, it's not for any purpose other than yummy flavor. It doesn't affect, like, animals or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think that one was actually, I think those ones were created through selective breeding. I don't think they were actually created through, like,
that's
technological cool. GMO. But I could be wrong about that. I think that's what I read about those. But, yeah, they're sometimes good. I love cotton candy grapes. They kind of took over my life for like 2 weeks. So
just for a hot second there. That's so wow. Oh yikes! It must suck to be a farmer right now, man. That is awful. Good. Yeah. Thank you, farmers.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for fighting with the man, with Big Brother. Cringe. What are we gonna do, man? What are we gonna do about this? How are we gonna solve this problem? Take down Monsanto? Then what? Be happy?
Yeah, we just had this conversation.
Happy.
Sleep. Go to
Be
the beach.
Go to the beach. Yeah. That was so cool. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Appreciate it. I hope everyone else learned something today. Just like me. I'm gonna close it out now.
Okay.
We're back. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Very Unimportant People podcast. If you want to hear more of us, we have Instagram at very.unimportant.people. And you can find our Patreon on our Instagram. While you're there, you might as well send us a little $4 to toonies. And you can check it out. We have a bunch of videos on there too for your enjoyment, and a bunch of bloopers and highlights and tangents and stuff like that. And then we are also on Twitter at the Unimportant PPL. And if you ever want to be a musical guest on the podcast, you can email us too at hatersclickhere@gmail.com. And that's HATRS@gmail.com. And finally, we are on TikTok, and you can check out our TikTok for joys and laughs and people taking us out of context and then fighting us, and then us not having the energy to respond because they just are stupid. We do it to ourselves though. I mean, like, I post out of context things on purpose knowing that it will make a splash, so go check it out. Leave us a comment, hate us or love us. The interaction feeds us. And that's all for this week. Have a great... Bye guys.